Hello, everybody. In a few moments, we'll be beginning today's interview. I'm just going to get things set up, and we're going to give a few more attendees a chance to dial in. So we'll kick things off here in about 20 more seconds. So let's get things started. My name is Jason Lindstrom, and I just wanted to give everybody here a warm welcome. Today, we're going to talk about how to create an award-winning culture and how to engage top talent. And we're also going to learn how Janco reduced his turnover and became a leader in employee engagement. And what better person to talk about this topic than the CEO, Mary Miller. So I'll introduce myself, and then I'll talk a little bit about Mary. My name is Jason Lindstrom. I'm an entrepreneur. I currently lead a company called Bucket List. It's an employee rewards and recognition platform. And with Bucket List, companies can reward employees with their greatest life goal. And I am super excited to have Mary Miller join us today. She is the CEO of Janco. They have over 500 employees. They have a phenomenal culture. They've been featured in a book called The Dream Manager. Mary is also an author, and she's been recognized as an Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, Enterprising Woman of the Year. She's been featured in numerous publications like Forbes and Inc. And on a side note, before Mary and I actually had a chance to formally meet one another, I literally had 3 different people say I should connect with her because we share many of the same values. It was so funny, Mary.
I love that.
We share many of the same values, and I don't know if you remember, but we when we jumped on our first call, I think we had a short call schedule, something like 15 minutes, and next thing you know, we were on the phone for over an hour, and I left that call feeling inspired. I learned a lot, and I was so looking forward to giving you a chance to share your learning with other entrepreneurs, other HR leaders, culture leaders, and that's what today is all about. So, Mary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure, Jason. Thank you so much for having me as a guest.
Awesome. So everybody on the call, today we're going to talk a bit about Janco. We're of course going to talk about employee engagement, culture, turnover, how to attract the best talent. And please, as we're going through, start thinking of your questions. At the end of this presentation, I'd love to open it up to everybody and give you guys a chance to ask whatever's on your mind. And just to kick things off, I'm going to do a quick poll for the people who are on the call. I want to give this call focus, and I want to be able to answer people's pain points. So I'm gonna put a quick poll up on screen, and I'm gonna launch that. And the poll just simply asks, are you interested in increasing employee engagement? You can put yes, no, not applicable, but I think this will help guide our conversation a little bit. So feel free to answer the poll. There's a lot of yeses coming in here. That's wonderful.
Oh,
So
I'm
mental
so
note.
glad. I'd be really worried if you had no or not.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Wow. 90% of you, 91% of you voted you are interested in employee engagement. Wonderful. Great. So we're going to make that a hot topic for today. And with that, I think we can jump into our conversation here. And the format will be, I've structured some questions in advance, but I know Mary has a lot of deep insights, and I've invited her to answer with her own background and experiences. And so with that, Mary, maybe you could talk a little bit about, just tell us a little bit about your background and how you became an entrepreneur.
Well, I was not one of those people that dreamt of becoming an entrepreneur and own my own business. I was one of those people who was addicted to eating. I wanted to be able to put food on the table for myself and my 3 children. The year I turned 30, all the wheels came off. And in that 1 year, my husband at the time and I had filed bankruptcy. We got divorced. That was my second divorce. As I said, I had 3 children, lost 2 jobs. The day I was supposed to sign the paper to move out of the house, I lost that job I had at that point. So everything was falling apart. And on Christmas Eve, I actually I came home with an eviction notice on my door. So I wasn't really sure what could go wrong next. So I was really knowing I couldn't depend on the two previous husbands, otherwise they would never become ex-husbands. So I knew I had to take control. At some point, I needed to change the direction that I was going in my life. And I was not going to be able to support myself and three children the way I wanted to, having a 9-to-5 job in the corporate world. So I started applying for easy jobs that I knew was low-hanging fruit. And somebody saw potential in me and said, have you ever thought of sales? And I became, to my parents' dismay, a 100% commission salesperson in the mobile home industry. So nothing glamorous or fancy about it, but I did really well helping people get affordable housing.
That's an awesome start. That's an awesome start. And so I think what I'd love to hear about next is how you transitioned into Janco. So how did you end up becoming one of the co-owners, and what was the company like? And how did you, well, I'd love to just hear the origin stories and how you're eventually able to take it from its beginning to where it is today. And as a quick backgrounder, I'd highly encourage everybody on the call to check out Mary's book, Changing Directions. She tells a compelling narrative of her entire life and also Janco. But we can get the Cole's notes, I think, in today's call.
Excellent. Well, I was at this mobile home dealership and I was doing well. Actually, within the third month, I got salesperson of the month. I heard the sales manager talking to one of the other sales guys in the back hallway saying, you let a girl beat you. Well, that kind of spurred me on a bit. I was really stunned at that, and rather than being whipped into the corner, I stood up straighter and got even stronger. And during that time, the owner of that company introduced me to a gentleman that really intrigued me, and he owned his own business. And we ended up getting married a couple years later. And within 2 years, we decided that all our energy would be better suited if we worked together in the family business. So I left sales of mobile homes and went into janitorial. My parents have not always been very thrilled with my choices. From less glamorous to less glamorous. But Tony had started Jancoa when he was 19 years old. His father had heart disease and had to have surgery. And he told Tony before he went into surgery, please promise me if something doesn't go right, you'll make sure the family's taken care of. And he did not survive and recover. He died. So Tony became head of household at 19 and left school and he was cleaning some of the bars around university and to pay his bar tab. And he just made Janco his full-time job, and it supported his mom and siblings. And I came along about 23 years later, so I'm generation 1.5. And when I came along, we had about 65 part-time employees, and we were pretty much an average cleaning business. We had the 400% turnover and all the problems that every other cleaning business has universally. There's no state or country better than another, and that includes a 400% turnover. But I had decided, Tony and I decided while we were going to these strategic coach workshops that we had to look at our future differently. I mean, now we had 5 kids in our blended family, and we weren't getting any younger. So what were we going to do to protect our future? So the answer that we came up with is most entrepreneurs' dream is let's create this that somebody might want to buy it, and then when we sell it, that money would be our retirement plan. Only we had a company that was a mess, and we're like, who would want to buy this? So we had to start making some changes quickly because we weren't getting any younger. Our runway was getting shorter by the day. So I hired a consultant, and the consultant came in for a 5-day contract. He was going to help us with efficiencies and processes, and I had high hopes. This was the magic juice. This was going to make it all better. And he fired us on the second day.
Oh, no.
I still have not heard of anybody else ever being fired. So any of you listening, if you've been fired in the past by a consultant, please let us know. I would love to have some misery and company, right? But it's been incredible because it stirred us on. You know, one of my chapters is about embracing change. And one of the things I know is people don't change to achieve pleasure. People typically change to avoid pain. And we were in a lot of pain. We had to do something different. So we had to start really taking a look at what we were doing and why were we doing it that way.
So with a 400% turnover, which I remember when I read that for the first time, I was like, did I read that right? Did somebody write this down wrong? Because I read it in a publication that had referenced your Janco, and I was like, I don't think that could be right. How could a business go through a 400% turnover each year? Because I was just doing some quick math with 65 employees. That's 130. That's 200. You have to recruit and hire 260 people every year. That sounds very painful and intense. So yeah. I would love to hear, how did you begin turning that around? What did that process look like?
Well, we had to start asking different questions, and I had mentioned briefly Strategic Coach earlier in our conversation, and that program that's created for entrepreneurs really helped us because we took one day every quarter to hit the pause button, to go to another city. We either go to Toronto or Chicago, and we reflect over the previous 90 days and we plan for the next 90 days. And that helps us stay on track instead of getting all over the place. Otherwise, I'm sure everybody's had that experience where you had full intention of doing something and 3 years later it's like, oh my God, what happened? We never did that. So it's an intentionality that was really changed when we were going to this program. And we had to start asking different questions. We were an average cleaning company, and where I was in my life, I thought average was okay. I had accepted to be average. And I made a conscious choice to stop being average, that I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the best in this community, that nobody else could compete with us. And I start asking the question, what do we have to do that people who want to work in our industry, which more people work in the cleaning industry than any other industry in the world. It's just a fact. So why would they want to work for us? And back in the 90s, there was this thing called the Yellow Pages. There wasn't any internet yet, so I couldn't Google for the answers, and I am addicted to Google, but we counted how many competitors we had, and there was 104 other cleaning companies.
Wow.
Why would they pick Jancoa? You know, what were we doing that would attract people who wanted to work in our industry, that they want to work for us? So that really changed. And then we started asking, well, and then once we attract them, what can we do to train them so they know what's expected of them and they can be successful at that? And then how can we keep them? Maybe not forever, but at least 3 to 5 years so that we can get a return on the investment, because we do pre-employment drug tests and background checks and a lot of training in the house and on job. We supply uniforms. You know, it's expensive to have that kind of turnover. So we really started by asking a lot of questions, and I think that's how the best spark for change, rather than just trying to leave pain, but to ask different questions, because the brain cannot ignore a question. So if you're in a place of frustration and anxiety, don't keep asking why me, why is it? Ask different questions, and your brain will start helping you figure it out.
I love it. That's great. And actually, that's a nice transition to, speaking of questions, my next question, which was, what sort of questions did you ask? How did you assess your culture? How did you, and I guess what it really comes down to, I was at this workshop the other day, and a company was saying they don't just do employee engagement surveys, they do employee happiness surveys. And that really resonated with me, and I'd love to get your thoughts, feedback, and input on this question. Like, how did you guys address this at Janco?
Well, it's an interesting question, and back in the day, early days, there was a lot of new technology, but now so much of technology is overused that it's kind of death by survey. So what we found, even back in the 90s and 2000s, and today, when you have conversations with people, watch their body language. You know, people lie. our employees want us to see the best side of themselves. They don't always want us to know the truth, because the truth isn't their best side. So when you assess it, you have to, what we have done, we've moved from having one dream manager that would try to manage all of our team members to filtering it down so it's more involved in the culture of caring, of, you know, you can't pretend to care, and people that join our team, they don't care, they don't last, they're gone. That's got to be number one. You know, it started as a program to help people dream big, but it's really become that culture of caring, to ask people what they want. You know, at the interview, at constant meetings that we have, I have area managers that take care of employees all the time. See, ever since 1972, Jancoa has always done above anything to take care of our customers. We were customer service eccentric. The customer wants something, we'd figure a way to make it happen. And that doesn't happen much in our industry. Our industry is known for making excuses. So we really took care of our customers. So one of those questions, Jason, that we had moved into was, what if we treated our employees the same way, with the same value as our customers? You know, it's not a original idea, but it's so easy to get away from it. It's like you're on a diet, you start losing weight, and you go back and get the hot fudge sundae. That's not going to help you. It's, you know, human nature is human nature. And so we really work hard to have consistent, just like we take care of our customers consistently, to be aware and have conversations with our team members. And we will, as I take, and our management team, our customer service managers will take customers out to lunch. Our customer service managers or night managers and that will take employees out to lunch, or will take lunch to the employees in the building and have conversations. And one of my favorite ones was just a customer service person, or when our office team went to a building we cleaned during the day and brought lunch, you know, pizza and a Coke. You know, our tagline is exceptional service with a smile, and Coke just really came along with their old tagline, have a Coke and a smile. And so over lunch, these day porters were talking, and they had shifts that were off by a couple of hours. And the one gentleman, his dream was to teach guitar. He was a really good jazz guitarist, but he needed to take this class to be able to do it, to get a certification, to have this position. So the class, the problem was he didn't get off till 5:30. The class started at 6, and there was no way he could make it in time. Well, the other day porters said, well, how long does the class take? I mean, how long will it last? And he said, 6 weeks. I said, well, 6 weeks, why don't we just shift? It's 1 day a week, right? And they said, yeah. He said, why don't we just shift? And for those 6 weeks, for that day, I'll take your shift and you take mine. You get off at 3:30 then, and you can make the class. And that's what he did. So when you have conversations in groups, that's when people feel recognized and appreciated, and ideas come out, and people feel supported that way. And that's one of the top things that people need. Humanity, regardless of who you are, how much money you have, or how much education, people need to have recognition and appreciation for what they're doing, and opportunity to move forward and make their life better.
I think that's a great example, and sometimes what's old becomes new again. And what you were referencing, what you were doing in the early 1970s and continuing to do today, I recently was reading about Google, and they do something called the TGIF, Thank God It's Friday, where they have a large number of employees, but it's kind of like a web and video conference where everybody gathers either in big conference rooms or face-to-face or sometimes online, and it's a chance to have conversation, dialogue, and to really connect in a meaningful way. So it's interesting how one of the biggest technology companies in the world is kind of doing what Janco is doing in regards to bringing people face-to-face and trying to really maintain and strengthen those people bonds.
Technology should advance humanity, not replace humanity. And we should use that only as a tool to aid to make it better, not to replace that direct connection, people to people. That everybody needs to have that.
Great. And so, Mary, I've read the Dream Manager book, and I've heard you mention it a couple of times, but I think it might be useful for the people who've joined us on the call today if you could kind of give the origins of that and some of the impacts it's had on your company.
Okay, well, after the consultant, Bob is his name, and yes, I have sent Bob a thank you note since then, because I don't think we would be where we're at today if it had not, if that thing did not happen. That was the thing that really set us off. But we were looking on how to measure employee happiness and assess our culture. We were looking at our top 10 employees. I mean, back then we didn't have the 600, almost 600 we have today, but we still look at the top employees and what they have in common. And what are the obstacles that need to be eliminated to be able to make that happen? And after Bob fired us and we were really trying to take a look at this, we start seeing, like, the very first thing we saw is that transportation was a huge issue, and it still is today, not just in Cincinnati, but in so many areas. You know, public transit is a real issue, and there's just not enough of it because jobs are moving farther out from the inner core. So we decided, well, I should say Tony decided, my husband, he, like I said, he started our business at 19. He gets an idea and he goes after it. So he went out and bought a 15-passenger van, went to a sign painting store, had it painted, Jancoa, employee shuttle, but came back and talked to our general manager and said, I figured out how to solve our problem. She sits back in her chair, crosses her arms, and she said, which problem? You know, I guess we had more than one. We were just focused on the people one at that time. And so he said, hey, we're going to pick people up from their home, take them to work, and take them home afterwards. So we don't have to depend on public transit or worry about how people were going to get to work or get home. And she still got her arms crossed, and she says, so who's going to drive this magic bus? I don't have enough people to clean, let alone drive. So Tony became our first shuttle driver. And within 2 days, he became invisible. The people that were riding the shuttle did not see him as the owner of the company. He was just the guy driving the shuttle around to get them to where they needed to be. And he starts seeing where they lived. He starts seeing their survival mode. I mean, Tony and I really felt we were in deep survival mode, trying to make this company worth something and valuable and cover payroll. And we saw that where our employees were at. And up to that point, you know, we were looking for people to move vacuums and to dust and clean restrooms. And he'd come home and he'd wake me up. He's got this horrible rule: if I can't sleep, you can't sleep. And he would wake me up, and we would talk for hours about what he saw, about what he heard. And that's really when we start asking the question, what if we worked on eliminating our employees' obstacles more, not just our customers, and did more of that tightrope walk and create value on both sides? Because we heard story, we saw the housing that they were lived in. We heard that some of them couldn't speak English, you know, they were speaking different languages. Today, 70% of our employees are immigrants and refugees. And we work with a lot of social service agencies who feed us so that we know all the documentation and everything's in place. And so it just started breaking our heart, you know, with having trouble with communicating and transportation and children with childcare issues and so many things. So we start putting things in place. Besides the transportation, we start helping people buy a home. Many of them were first-generation homeowners. We found programs. We didn't do it for them. It's really, really important that people understand that. I will never intentionally be part of an entitlement program where people feel we owe them. I feel that, you know, we do our part, they do their part, and together we all win. And that's how people's confidence grows and energy grows. And they want to do more as they achieve great success or little successes along the way. We had people get driver's license. We had a young man from Nigeria that came in with his driver's license after a few months, and he wanted us to take a picture of him standing with me and our dream manager at the time, because he wanted to send it home to show his family that he achieved a huge dream in his life. He got his driver's license so he could get a job off of the bus line. So when we were sharing this information with people, what we were doing, one friend said, you know, you're really helping people go after their dreams. And that really stuck with us. We liked that idea, so we start growing it. And then Matthew Kelly heard about it through a friend. And he said we should write a book, and we'd laugh. And he came back to us and said, okay, I want to write the book. What can we work out? So Matthew Kelly, already best-selling author and speaker, wrote his first non-faith-based book, was The Dream Manager. And we didn't want it to be about us. We wanted it to be about the program that would help people around the world. And today the book's in 15 languages. It's a New York Times bestseller. And people are dreaming differently all over the world, in businesses and families and schools, and even in churches. People are using this information to change the conversation. And what I know, Jason, is people don't fight over dreams about the future. They fight over problems from the past. So when more people are working towards something in their life, they become engaged in their life. They become engaged in their job. The result for us, bottom line, is our turnover reduced. Our turnover is 300% better than the industry average. We have better productivity because we have the same people. We today have very unique processes and systems on how we take care of our customers in their buildings, and our competitors don't understand how we do it. They can't figure us out.
I bet. Your differentiator feels like I heard a really great quote about, I think it was Branson who said it, is if you take care of your people will take care of your business and your customers. And it feels like
I've got the article on my desk. It was in Inc Magazine in September.
Yeah, which is powerful, and I think a lot of people always think externally, like, what do we have to do for our customers? What more do we have to like give them, or how do we slash our own prices? They don't reflect. They don't shine the mirror. Take a look in the mirror, perhaps.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's really crazy is it used to be, I mean, my job was sales. I'm a good salesperson. I mean, Tony was dating a 24-year-old blonde with no kids when I got him. So I know I'm a good salesperson. But it's just really different when you stop selling and you start caring. And then my customers are telling other people in the same business that if you're not using Jancoa, what's wrong with you? You need to be using Jancoa to clean your building. Their people are amazing. Instead of me having to go out in the community and brag about how great our team is, people are coming up to me and telling me how great our team is.
Yeah, I love it. So you've already started talking about this question, but I think you could go potentially deeper. Do you guys have any strategies to? I'm sure the Dream Manager might be one of them, but like, how do you conscientiously build a great culture? And another one, maybe a question to add on top of that, especially for companies of your size, is like, how do you scale great culture? Like, how do you keep that? Because I know some companies, especially hyper-growth companies, they're like, how do we maintain the great feeling that we had at the beginning? And I'd love to get your insights and thoughts on this question.
I think it's a really good question, and we talked a little bit before the call, Jason, about the importance to have balance in our life and how often you hear people questioning on how to do that. And I think balance and culture really go hand in hand, that everybody, whether it's the company or employees, wherever we're at in life, we have to make sure that we are present with whoever we're with. If we're with our family, be present with our family. That creates a great family culture. If you're with team members, be with your team members. That they recognize that you care about them and you're really out to take care of them and not to hurt them, like society tells everybody that every business is out to do. And it's the same with, customers. So when you're present, be present. That's the beginning of the culture. The culture is about how people feel about what's going on. There's some people that are doing a lot of fun things in tech industry, and they've got ping pong and bongs and keggers and all kinds of stuff. But that doesn't have anything to do with the culture of people believing that you care about them. That's just a culture of party and fun. Not right, wrong, good, or bad, but not what I'm looking to achieve. I'm looking to achieve that our team knows that when we're out with them, we're with them. How can we help you? And that's the culture. It's about caring. It's about asking, listening, not ready to respond, but listening with your heart and your ears wide open. Acknowledge what you heard. That's a real popular active listening skill that people have gotten away from, and then encourage them. When somebody shares with you something they're working on in their life, when you see them, ask them, hey, how's that going? Are you moving forward? Are you what's going on with you? And all of a sudden they're like, well, wait a minute, you remembered what I was talking about?
Yeah.
That's how loyalty works. That's how connection happens. There's an IT company in South Africa. They've grown amazingly. It's called Netzerit. They're in Johannesburg, Cape Town, as I understand it, they're in the Philippines, Vietnam, and they opened an office in New York last year. And when they got hold of the Dream Manager, they totally full blast. They changed the homepage of their website. It says supporting the dreams of the doers. And they recognize everybody and talk about their dreams, and they said it improved their employee engagement. I mean, they're IT people. They know how to track things. They said it stopped their turnover, and it increased their employee engagement by 80%.
Wow. Wow. And I love tactics, because I agree with the idea of being present. I think that makes so much sense. And I love the idea of connection. But tactically, I'm a very tactically driven individual. What sort of, are there things, systems or processes you can put into place to begin allowing helping your people become a little more present, allowing that connection to happen? What does that look like? And you guys put anything together like that at Janco?
We really try. Like today we have about 90 employees that are Nepali, from Nepal, Bhutan via Nepal. And today is a very big holiday for them. I can't pronounce it, but it's a big holiday. So we know that we have a lot of people that will not be coming into work tonight. And so we are working really hard to cover all their positions so that they can celebrate their cultural holiday, because that's important, to acknowledge where they're at. You can't get people to come to where you are. You have to go to where they are. And then when they willingly want to follow you, that's when you know your culture is working.
That's awesome. So like knowing who your people are, going to them, supporting them in their own traditions and holidays, I think that's really progressive. That's so cool.
It's not easy, you know. What makes sense doesn't mean it's easy, but the first step in any change is commitment. It's not that you have the confidence or the capability or even know what that looks like, but that you're committed to create a culture that will attract the best people who want to work for you and treat them in a way that they want to stay working with you. And that's not always easy, just because, I mean, like we have 180 buildings spread over a 90-minute radius in this area, so we don't get to see our people all the time. So it's not something I can walk down the hallway and talk to people on a regular basis. It would be intentionally having to go out at night. We do intentionally have one big celebration. We call it our family picnic. And this past year, we have a really popular soccer team in Cincinnati right now, FC Cincinnati. They're really doing amazing. And we invited all our employees and their immediate families. We had 925 people at a soccer game.
That's one heck of a family picnic.
It was an amazing family picnic. We had pizza out the wazoo.
Wow, that sounds awesome. What a good party. And kind of carrying along that line of tactics, how would one tactically implement the Dream Manager program? Maybe kind of like how do you bring it together? How do you start, and how do you breathe life into a program like that?
I think the number one most important thing is to be committed, because people will not believe it. People will not believe you're serious. People will not believe it'll stay. It's just a new phrase. I mean, us business owners are pretty well known for changing things here and there. So I think we've probably earned that reputation. So you have to make a commitment that you're going to stick with this, regardless of the naysayers and the obstacles that get in the way, and make the changes and adjustment as you need to make it happen. And start small. I mean, if you have a huge announcement and all these people and you don't have any structure or anything set up on how you're going to get to everybody, it's not going to work. I mean, it's kind of like your bucket list. That is a great tool to help for companies to be able to tap into that, to find out what do their team members want and how can you support them, or they create groups of community to support each other in those type of things. So one way that I've seen a lot of companies start out small is to have a lunch and learn on a monthly basis. You know, just tell somebody, bring your brown bag and we'll have lunch the second Wednesday or at the end of the day on the third Thursday, and you just get together and talk about what are you doing on the dreams? And maybe choose one of the 12 categories that's in the back of the Dream Manager and say, okay, let's talk about vacation. We're ending 2017. Where do you want to go on vacation next year? And people share ideas and what worked and what didn't work. And together, people work together. And then when they get back together the following month, they kind of build up where they are there and then select another category. They're not trying to do it all overnight, but they're creating conversations and they get to know each other better. And they start, I mean, it's better than any book club because you're talking about each other's hopes, dreams, and desires. And when does that happen in life? When does that happen in life?
Well, that's great. So lunch and learns with a nice little structured topic, perhaps around vacations, and then the opportunity to talk about what they want to do. I love it.
Take turns on who's running the meeting. It doesn't have to be one person in charge.
Very good.
Schedule it out and rotate. I had a friend who had this was a decade ago, 2 teenage boys at home. And she was talking to a mutual friend about how she found this great book called The Dream Manager, and it's totally changed their conversation at dinner time. Instead of being angry about what they're not doing right, they start talking about dreams, hopes, and desires based on the book in that. And she said it totally changed the relationship. And the mutual friend says, well, you know that's about Mary Miller's company, right? And she's like, what? No, I had no idea. Because it's really important to say we did not want the book to be about Tony and Mary Miller at Janco in Cincinnati. We wanted it to be about a program that really creates a culture of caring. And if it was all about us, then as Taylor Swift said so well, haters are going to hate, and it would just take away from what we were trying to accomplish.
It was funny when I did read the book. The book's so good. And when I read the story, it felt like a story. It was almost too good to be true. And when I found out it was based on a real company, and then when you and I had a chance to connect, I was blown away. And the fact, and I was like, oh, those stats have to be exaggerated. But like everything I read is held true. Like it's like the results you've gotten from your Dream Manager program, the ability to help employees achieve goals has been huge to building your culture.
Yeah. It's made, and life changes. It's been over a decade since the book came out, so it's our world today is very different than it was 10 years ago in so many ways. So you can start working on a culture and think that everything's in place, but it doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. We have to be willing to adapt and adjust and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but make those adjustments as we need to get to the results that we really want to achieve.
And so to that point, how have you guys changed over the years, and how have you adapted?
Well, we now have almost 600 employees. We have over 50 middle managers that have their territories to support each other, and we really work on having those conversations. We have a weekly meeting with our middle managers, and one day a month we have a celebration with them, and we have a dinner that celebrates their birthdays and brings them up to date with a positive focus. Everybody shares something that's going great in their life. So we really try to continue consciously and intentionally to have conversations that will continue to create connections. And instead of having a couple of dream managers that's over everybody, and Telesoft is doing this as well. I was so inspired I was impressed that I knew the changes we made, and when I'm talking to the dream manager at Telesoft, that's an IT company, software company out in Arizona, and they said that they selected some great team members that are involved in their teams. And so it's kind of the trickle down, instead of just having a couple people, that people within the ranks are actual dream managers and helping each other and encouraging each other with the conversations.
Very good. And a quick question about the Dream Manager program at Janco. I know in the book they talk about potentially even hiring a full-time kind of life coach to manage the implementation of this. But I think in our last call you had mentioned you've been adapting and thinking about different processes around this. What does that role look like inside of your company?
We have a value system that we refer to as CHOW. Mm-hmm. And CHOW is how we work on our evaluation with team members. Mm-hmm. It's C3, commitment, communication, and consistency. accountability, integrity, and opportunity. So those are tied directly with the dream manager to be able to make sure that we're having these conversations regularly. Human nature is a crazy thing. People will go to the path of least resistance. So if you don't continue having a conversation and bring it to their attention, they'll see squirrels. I mean, I'm addicted to squirrels. I see them everywhere. We get distracted. And then all of a sudden, a year later goes by, it's like, whatever happened to that great program we were doing? And that's one of the reasons I love what Matthew Kelly has created in Floyd Consulting. Floyd Consulting works with companies all over the world to help hold them accountable and consistently stays with them so that they don't have to do it themselves. They can focus on their business. Well, either Matthew Kelly's team or somebody that they send to be certified as a dream manager can do it for their team and for other companies. So there's a lot of executive coach type things where people are doing those kind of conversations and getting certified and helping other companies.
I love it. It's great. And one more question, how do you attract the best talent? I know we touched on it a little bit so far, but in addition to the dream manager and creating a great internal culture, is there any sort of systems or processes, or like how do you guys get such good talent on board, and how do you get them to stick around?
Our best people come from our people. And that's just time after time after time after time. Anytime somebody tries to talk us into an ad to try it, it never works. 57% of our people come from our current employees. Wow. 17% of people come from previous employees that have moved on and working, going after their dreams. And then the difference, for the most part, come from social service agencies or people in the community that hears about us.
Wow. So the vast majority is employee referral driven. Do you guys have any sort of incentive programs around that, or is that just kind of an organic because you take such good care of your people, they naturally start referring one another?
The song comes to mind from Cabaret. Money makes the world go round, the world go round, the world go around. You know, we have people that are at low income jobs that we want to help advance them to improve their quality of life. But in our industry, there's only so much we can do. So if we can find ways, because it's way less expensive to reward them to bring great people to us than to have to deal with the turnover and pay for the training and the background checks and the drug test. So that's a really big part of what we do. And we give the people who referred them, but we also give the new hire a 90-day stay bonus. So that they've got, because typically if you can get somebody to stay for 90 days and they get over the humps of I'm not sure this is right or where I want to be, but they're willing to stay because there's going to be an extra check in it for them, then they find out that where the rubber meets the road and the smoke clears, and they decide that, yeah, they really like this environment. And we've had people who left for better paying jobs that came back and said, no, you don't understand. They didn't treat me like family like Jancoa does.
That's awesome. So there's referral bonuses handed out to the staff who are bringing these great people in, a bonus to stay. I love it, to get to know the team, and then you guys clearly are doing such a good job keeping your people. One of the stats you just threw out that really jumped out at me is that you're getting 17% of your employee referrals from past employees. Meaning, I guess they moved on to other opportunities, but they're still like, yeah, no, Janco is the best place for me to work.
Yeah. Tony and I recently were attending a training for a community volunteer project, and there was a young man from Nigeria sitting at the table. There's probably about 40 to 50 people in the room. And he says, as we were starting to introduce each other, he says, you guys look really familiar. And so I introduced ourselves, you know, we own Janco. He says, I thought so. I used to work for you. I'm like, what? He said, yes, I'm originally from Nigeria, and your Janco was the first company I worked for in the United States. And I had an IT job in Nigeria, but I had to go through all the certifications and tests and that before I could go into that field in the United States. So I worked with you guys, and he says, and I was at the soccer game that you had the big party at. I've got my Jancoa shirt. So he's made friends, and he has stayed friends with them.
That's awesome. So I'm looking at the time, and I think we're getting pretty close to wrapping it up. But there's just a couple questions I wanted to ask. I know you've had the chance to write books. You're a wealth of knowledge. What are your sort of top tactics you would recommend? Like if an HR leader of another 500-person company came up to you and said, you know, Mary, where should I start when it comes to building a great culture? What are your sort of top tips that you'd pass on to them?
Okay, I spoke last night at the Disrupt HR in Cincinnati, and I challenged everybody in the room. There's a few hundred people there to disrupt the way they've always done business and start with the person they see in the mirror. I think it's really important that you cannot attract anybody to come work for your company if you're not happy. If you're not engaged in your life and in your job, you're not going to attract anybody else. And I think that's a really important piece. I mean, the numbers today, the war on talent is huge. Somebody told me last night, oh, the war's over, they won. You know, it's just kind of crazy right now. So it's really important that when HR has that demeanor, people pick up on energy. And when the HR team is working on their dreams and they're engaged in their life, people can feel that energy and they want to be part of that kind of culture. You can't just talk about it, about what you want it to be. People have to feel it. And I think that's really, really important.
Excellent.
Why would people want to come to work with you?
Yeah, no kidding. And one other question, because I know you have a big focus on dreams. If you're allowed to, if you can speak to this, what is your next big goal that you're working on your own list?
Well, we are transitioning Jancoa into the second generation, so that's a big one for us. But as we move forward, Tony and I are on we're both on our third marriage. We've been married 26 years. We have a relationship coach. We told her we want the next 26 years to be easier and more fun than the first 26 years. So as part of that, as we realize that we want to continue to learn and be better, we want to help others too, because people ask us all the time. They see we have fun and enjoy being together. So we're creating a program called the Hot Spouse Program to bring fun and excitement into committed relationships. And I'm really looking forward to that.
No, I think I know we chatted about this a little bit before the call started, but I think I know of a lot of people who'd find that valuable and could get a lot of benefit from it. So at this time, I'm going to do two quick things. I'm going to open it up to Q&A. So for those of you who are on the call live, there's a little question window where you can go ahead and type your questions into the window, and I'll take a few minutes, or more, pardon me, Mary will take a few minutes to answer your questions that may have come up during the call. I might throw in my 2 cents where applicable. But why don't we open it up right now?
Should I be seeing the questions? That little window is gone off my screen.
Some questions are there and some questions are in front of me.
Okay. So I'll just let you share them with me because I'm only seeing the slideshow, the slides.
Very good. Okay. So first question: Are there any tools that you'd recommend when it comes to are there any tools that HR should consider when it comes to building culture?
I think the tools is to use your natural born gifts and talents. You know, we have become a society, and I'm guilty of it. My kids call me a Mac freak. I love my technology, but I think that it's really important that we go back to that humanity component and connect person to person. You know, ask questions and listen. It's so important to listen to what people are saying and not just listen to know how to respond to them. I think it's really important. Yeah, there's lots of tools out there, but I think it's important to go back to that humanity component and just start having real conversations and listening more.
Very good. And this is kind of a tactical question, but how much do you invest into culture? And maybe I'll add on to this question just for my own sake of curiosity. Like, is there a time or budget allocation that, like, is there a culture budget that you guys have? And maybe we don't necessarily need actual dollars, but potentially just percentage amounts? Or
well, I know companies that do that. They have dollars and they help make different dreams come true for different people. And not good, bad, right, or wrong. That's just not the way we do it. We have found that we connect with agencies in our community, and there's plenty in every community that have programs to help improve the quality of life for people in so many ways. And just when you have conversations with a group of people, what you'll realize as HR or business owner, you don't have to have all the answers. It's really good when you acknowledge, okay, I'm not sure how this would work. What do you guys think we should do? And the team, they're amazing how they will come up with ways to make things different and better. There's one company that has their own television station that goes to their, I think, a dozen different locations, and they work on creating, they have two people that work to do every day a 3 to 5 minute snippet of positivity, just so that people know that they're trying to be present and be aware of those things. So there's lots of best practices, but I think it's really important for the leaders in HR and to get with the COO and the CEO and find out, okay, if it was 3 years from now, what has to happen in this company with the culture for us to be really happy, and reverse engineer it from there and figure out, what do you want to invest? Sometimes it's more time and being present than it is a fiscal responsibility.
That's cool. So almost setting a vision for culture and then reverse engineering where you want to be 3 to 5 years out. That sounds really powerful, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders do that for, like, what do we want our revenue to be like? What do we want our headcount to be like? But to be really conscientious and build out a culture and building a steps and a strategy to achieve it. That's awesome. That's good.
Yeah.
And then one final question: who should own or lead culture?
Everybody. Everybody. I think it starts at the top. As a CEO, my number one job, and Warren Buffett said this once, and when I read it, I thought, I know I'm in the right job. As the CEO, my number one job is to be a cheerleader for every team member that I have, to give them encouragement and confidence that our company is great, it's going in the right direction, and we care about our team, and we care about our customers. And everything that I say and do confirms that, reaffirms it to everybody that sees and hears about me. There are no secrets. If I go out and pretend in the office that I'm loving life and things are great, and somebody, I mean, it's a small world, people find out I'm complaining to somebody about something, it gets found out. We have to live our life as if there's no secrets. That transparency is huge. And if you're having a bad day, don't let anybody see that. I mean, it's good to be honest and real, but they're looking to the leaders to show them, to give them confidence they're in the right place and everything's going to be okay.
I love it. And I said last question, but we had one more pop up from Melissa, and that question is, do you have any tips on how to attract talent across all the generations, considering they all work for different reasons? Great question, Melissa. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great question. Years ago, when we were in a very tiny office and had less than 100 employees, the phone would ring after hours as we were sitting around trying to figure out how we were going to get everything done. And Tony would answer the phone, Jancoa, the international company. It's just being silly, right? Today, 70% of our employees are from 40 different countries. So we are an international business. So I think it's really important that you decide as a company, what do you want your demographics to look like? And where do you find those kind of people? And why would they want to work for you? It all starts, change starts with sparking conversations and questions, and asking questions differently than the way you did it. Make a list of all the obstacles that's preventing you from achieving what you want. And then one by one, what's one strategy that'll move you forward to help eliminate that obstacle? Because that's where the gold is. The gold is in the middle of the mess. So go toward that, decide what you want, and then figure out one by one. We can't take care of everything. It's like the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time.
Excellent. So Mary, thank you so much for that. There's one other kind of quick offer that I'm going to put up on screen. So of course I represent Bucket List, and for those who are interested in learning more about this program, in a few seconds I'm going to pop up a little poll where you can say you'd like a demo of what we're all about, or no, I'm not interested. And just to be clear, what Mary has done with the Dream Manager program is different than what Bucket List is doing. There are many overlaps. So at Bucket List, you are able to reward your employees for achieving life goals. So we definitely have a goal focus that we share, but Mary's program, the Dream Manager, is awesome, and I'd highly recommend picking up a copy of the Dream Manager to learn more about it. So I'm going to pop this question up on screen, and if you're interested, just feel free to reply yes.
Jason, did you know that January 13th is International Dream Day?
No, I did not. I love it.
Exactly, January 13th. And for the first time ever, it's Make a Dream Come True Day. And we started a campaign that we want all of our team members to share with us what is their dream. And we're going to help one person achieve their dream.
Wonderful. That's awesome. I think that's, yeah, I think anytime you invest in your people, you help them achieve a life goal, that pays massive dividends in the future. And it makes you feel so good. There's nothing better than that.
Nothing better. You're right.
Great. So Mary, thank you so much for your time today. If people want to stay in touch with you or learn more, can they follow you on Twitter, LinkedIn? What's a good way for them to stay in the loop when it comes to Mary Miller, your writing and your career and your amazing story?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Mary_Dreams. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. So I haven't tried Snapchat yet. That one still confuses me a bit.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm on the sidelines of that. Mary, thank you so much for your time today. That was awesome. Thanks everybody who joined us for the live call, and I hope those who listen to this afterwards, you enjoy it a lot. I'm going to be sending out a copy of this recording along with a couple goodies, and I'll include Mary's Twitter handle as well. Thank you everybody so much, and I'm looking forward to you joining us in our future conversations. If you have any feedback for me when I send out the follow-up email, please feel free just to reply to that. And with that, everybody, I hope you have an amazing Thursday, and I'd encourage you to go out and set your own goals and dreams as well. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason.